This video was made possible by Skillshare. Learn what you want to learn with Skillshare for free for 2 months at the link in the description. Cenozoic, tripartly, plurocentrum, antidodontalgic, floxinosin, helipolification. You see, what I'm doing here is using a bunch of long fancy words to make you think that this video isn't some mumbo-jumbo pseudoscience nonsense. Because it's not. There are plenty of very legitimate studies linking your name to your life, and that makes sense. After all, your name is as attached to you as your arm, your leg, your credit score, the regret that you didn't buy Bitcoin 6 months ago because it was too complicated. Your name is part of you, and you reflect your name. For example, here are 3 people. One is named Richard, one is named Bob, and one is named Jack. Who do you think is named what? Now, these are all American white men around the same age, so there are no ethnic or generational biases that you could use to match names to people. But statistically, there is an above average chance that you matched Bob to Bob Buckhorn, mayor of Tampa, Florida, Richard to Richard Ford, novelist and short story writer, and Jack to Jack Hanna, zoologist and conservationalist. Some of you may have by chance recognized one of these people, but the majority of you who didn't, on average, matched the right name to the right person more than the 33.3% of the time that would be random. The Hebrew University of Jerusalem conducted the study that identified this ability to guess names and that names fit their owner, which helps explain, at least a little bit, why you don't know many professors named Chad. They conducted a series of tests where they had participants guess the real name of people in photos, and in all cases, the guesses were far more accurate than random chance. In their second test, for example, participants were shown 4 different names for each picture, meaning that, if it were random, participants would guess correctly 25% of the time, but for some names, such as Tom, guesses were correct 52% of the time. With other names, such as Yeshua, accuracy was as low as 9%, well below random, so they continued their study by affirming that the accuracy didn't just come from some names being more popular than others, but on average, names were guessed correctly 30% of the time, 5% above random. It's indisputable that people do look like their names. But here's the problem with this conclusion. With very little exception, names are chosen before or at birth, at which point parents have pretty much no idea what their child will look or act like. So that means something else must be true. Names are a self-fulfilling prophecy. We act, look, and make decisions based off our name. For example, about 0.42% of the population of the US is named Louis, which means that there should be 1,316 people in St. Louis, Missouri named Louis, but there are not. There are 1,959. This is the same elsewhere. There are 2,202 people named Georgia in Georgia, while based off the average, there should be 1,103. There should be 262 people named Mary in St. Mary's, Ohio, but there are 390. The difference isn't enormous, but it is statistically significant. What researchers have concluded is that people notice things and places more when they're similar to their names. So someone named Louis, for example, would just notice St. Louis more, so when it comes time to move, St. Louis is closer to the front of their mind. And it's not just places that have this effect. A Belgian study found that people were 12% more likely to apply for a job at a company whose name matches in first letter to their name. For example, Adam and Amazon and Nick and Netflix. But back to why people look like their names. For the sake of not offending anyone, I'll use rather unlikely names, but if anyone is named Twiddletoes or Kurzlanda, I do sincerely apologize. According to the University of Jerusalem study, if there's a social stereotype that people named Twiddletoes are on the heavier side, less successful, and unattractive, all the people named Twiddletoes will fall into acceptance that they will be those things because their name says so, while all the Kurzlandas, stereotyped to be athletic, successful, and attractive, will have the societal pressure to live up to their name. By nature, the average of what all the Kurzlandas are like is what people will expect Kurzlandas to act like, and then every Kurzlanda will be expected to act like that average. Of course, some of the association between looks and names has to do with culture and race, but in all, there's a sort of micro peer pressure going on for everyone with one name to act like each other, since that's what other people expect of them. Oh, and for all the expecting parents that have now terrified with the burden of choosing a name that will singularly make or break their child's life, here's a top tip. If you want them to go on and make loads of money, name them Peter if they're a boy and Deborah if they're a girl, since these are the most common names among CEOs. But it's not all about the name. If you want young Peter or Deborah to succeed, they'll need to learn things, so for their 0th birthday present, you should get them a subscription to Skillshare. You see, Skillshare is an amazing place to learn what you want to learn because they have over 18,000 classes on what you want to learn. How to tie a shoe? Yep. Differential calculus? Yep, they got that too. With so many classes, you're bound to find one about what you're interested in. The best news is that you can learn with Skillshare for free for 2 months only by going to the link in the description. Now get out of here and sign up, and happy holidays or Christmas or whatever.